Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Attacking Football podcast. I am your host, LA Matthews. Joining me this week, our producer has made it to the screen. Alfie, welcome, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. I'm looking forward to being on the video this time. Happy to be
Mate,
here.
people are seeing your face. It's kind of become a regular occurrence. I don't know if I'm okay with it, but yeah, it is what it is. Also joining me, returning, making his triumphant return after a great podcast a few months ago. Graham is here from HITC Football. How you doing, mate?
Evening, guys. Yeah, doing good, thanks.
Welcome back. Welcome back. And making his podcast debut, we have Jeptaj, also known as BA11 Talk on Twitter. He recently won. What did you win, mate? The Football Writers
Association bursary for 2023.
Wow, what an honor that is. How did that come about?
So I did my NCTJ qualification the end of last year into this year, and I applied for this bursary, and then I won it. So I'm being mentored by Miguel Delaney, which is pretty cool.
That is very cool. Very cool. I like Miguel a lot. He's a really good writer, actually. Yeah. Well done, mate. That's a big award.
Thank you.
Big award.
Appreciate that.
So welcome to the show. We're going to do a conversation around this man, Thomas Tuchel. Now, Graham, I'm going to start with you because there is a lot of discourse on online at the moment. There's news stories pounding the streets around whether England should be hiring a foreign manager. Now, you said today, and I quote, whilst Thomas Tuchel is an outstanding coach, English football has been let down by the Football Association, not for the first time or the last. What do you mean by that?
You know, and this isn't coming from nationality and stuff. The fact he's German, etc. And I just think that England have been, especially in the last 4 years, they've been knowing this day was coming, and the Herald, St George's Park, etc., and the anatomy of the game in England now, which is all about bringing on young talent, both player wise and coaching wise. Now, what an absolute slap in the face this is for all England coaches that they've now appointed Thomas Tuchel. And I don't for 1 minute, I'll be honest, I don't believe much of what Mark Bullingham has said today, the FA chief, in that speaking to 10 candidates and he's suddenly the main one. If he was the standout candidate, why didn't you appoint him in the summer? Why did you wait until now? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's a complete knee-jerk reaction from a Greek defeat. They've looked what's out there and they've panicked. Yes, he is. As I said, he's an outstanding coach. I don't consider him elite. I don't put him in the same bracket as a Pep or a Klopp. That's for sure. Yeah. And I think it's been a knee-jerk reaction. They've panicked. They think, oh, maybe Manchester United might go of him, which I don't think they will. By the way, I don't think Man United were contemplating appointing Tuchel. I think they looked in the summer and went elsewhere. If he was the outstanding candidate, as they're purporting it him to be, then he should have been appointed when he was a free agent in the summer. And yes, there are issues with his buy-in payoff and severance package, but that could have been overcome. Of course, it could have.
Oh, easily, yeah.
I think it should have been an English coach. I think there are plenty of English candidates out there. You know, from obviously, as I've said, Eddie Howe would have been my preference all along. I think he would have been ideal man for the job. I think his man-to-man management is outstanding. I think that's what this thing needs, more so than a master tactician in some ways. But you know, the Graham Potters of this world. Let's look at you. Ashley Cole's in the system. Could you have promoted him early? Maybe people say nonsense, but of course you could have. Look at the way that other massive nations compete, and the fact is, you don't need a huge foreign coach to win a World Cup. Indeed, history and the facts suggest that if you do have a foreign coach, you won't win the World Cup, as one never has.
Never happened in history, no.
And appointing him on a short-term contract, I can see why Tuchel's took the job. You know, he can go win the World Cup, which I hope he does with England, and then you know that sets him up maybe for a Barcelona or Real Madrid. That's the only way he can go anywhere, having had the jobs he's had. Yeah, I just think though this whole system, the whole process, I think that the FA have been not telling us the complete truth. I'll be honest. I think it's been a complete knee-jerk reaction, this appointment. I think they're panicked, and yeah, I don't believe what they're saying. I really don't.
What happened with Lee Carsley? Why? Let's face it. Lee Carsley has absolutely set the world on fire with the 21s. He's playing expansive, attacking football, attacking football, and not only that, they're winning games. And he stepped up to the men's senior team. He's picked a squad that, on merit, is actually probably two very, very good squads. He didn't go, right, I'm going to bring in the star names. He went, no, I'm going to pick based on form, and he set his stall out. Okay, the Greek game was a bit of a travesty, but we know now that Tuchel has already been appointed by then, because he was appointed on October the 8th, which was before that game. So he probably had a free hit.
So the FA, sir, yeah.
So the FA say. Let's for the sake of argument say that that's true, and I don't know whether it is or whether it isn't. You probably do.
We have to. You have to take their word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he knew that Tuchel had already been appointed, he had a free hit with that game. He could do what he wanted, which is why he probably played the side that he did with 2 10s, 1 DM, and played about 15 attacking players at a pitch full of 11. It's one of those. But why didn't Lee Carsley get a look in? Did he get interviewed? They say there was 10. Did he get interviewed?
He was one who wanted the job. Obviously they knew about him anyway. He was part of the process. You know, I think I felt sorry for Lee in a lot of ways. I think the press really had it in for him, and I'm not sure whether he was fully prepared, because I think the English press, I say the English national team press, when they're a completely different bunch to even the Premier League boys, really.
Yeah.
It's you're talking top echelons, and they go at you. One journalist who was part of this told me about the fact that Lee Carsley, when he did a late press conference just before the Greece game, where it was late at night, and they'd already briefed the written press during the day, but he hadn't told them about Harry Kane being out at that point. So their copy was almost wrong. It went out the next morning, and they took that badly. And you know, if you get on the wrong, Gareth Southgate, if nothing else, was a brilliant tactician with the media. He knew how to use the media, and you have to have them on side. And unfortunately for Lee, from quite the offset, he didn't have them on side. If you haven't got the press on side, it's going to be a very hard situation for you. And unfortunately, it just looked too much for him. I think it's a shame, because I think what he's done with the 21s has been good. But yeah, but then again, for the FA, it's a good process to see if they're ready. Obviously, if he's not, but yeah, I just think the whole situation. Yeah, the FA trying to say they did this and that, but why appoint an interim man in the first place? You know, we don't see this with other nations, and
no.
I'm not convinced by the timeline that the FA are putting out there, but I think it'll come out in the wash in time. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see. And then obviously Tuchel starts, see what he gets up with. And it doesn't make any sense now, does it, that in theory Tuchel won't be in charge in November? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
No. I mean, the fact that we've got 3 international breaks before Christmas doesn't make a great deal of sense anyway. But yeah, why appoint the man and then not have him in charge for the next group of games? Fine. Jeptaj, you said yesterday, people saying the England manager has to be English is so funny to me. An English manager has never won the Premier League, nor have England won anything in any of our lifetimes. That is factually 100% correct. So is your argument that if England want to win something, they've got to go out and get the best manager who's available at the time?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I see it. I feel like when you look at the English pool of managers currently, no one is really up to scratch. I know, Graham, you just mentioned Eddie Howe, who probably is the best, but A, he's never won anything. B, I'm not convinced he would want to leave Newcastle. When you then look at other managers, Graham Potter, I don't think currently he's got what it takes to manage a big team or nation. He proved that at Chelsea. He just wasn't, his personality wasn't the right fit. Like you were saying, Graham, something great that Southgate was good at is he could manage the media. I feel like with Potter at Chelsea, the media were all over him. He didn't know how to handle himself. So I feel like when you look at what's out, and then you're looking at, Gerrard, Lampard, people who aren't good enough, and at base level, if you're comparing Thomas Tuchel with Eddie Howe, it's no contest for who's the better manager. So I see it as simple as that.
So, what do we need to do as a nation, as an English nation? Forgive me if you're not English, but what do England need to do to improve the quality of coaches? Because I saw an interesting stat on social media, and Graham, you may be able to refute this, I'm not sure, but according to what I read, the English FA's coaching license costs are disproportionate to what the license costs are in Germany, for example. So in Germany, the UEFA A license cost €530. In England, the C license is £500. The B license is 960. The A license is £3,645. Are we disproportionately blocking young English coaches from getting the education that they need?
I think there's some very good young English coaches out there, and I'm not sure about the finances, to be honest. I know it's not. I do know it's not cheap. I know a few guys who've done it and they're going through it, and they tend to get subsidised through clubs and local associations in the PFA, etc. But you know, you need. I get the points that are made about obviously Tuchel's won more than Eddie Howe, for instance. But these English coaches, you know, they're not getting these chances at club level. So when are they going to get these chances? You know, we see, you know, Scaloni in charge of Argentina. You know, was what he won domestically before doing that. And there's many examples from Deschamps and Spain this summer as well. I think it's just a bad look. I really do. I think the way they've been going on about St. George's Park and the whole system, I think it just stinks. I actually heard even Jack Wilshere, who I heard on the radio just a few hours ago, where he was talking about, yeah, he thinks Tuchel's a good appointment. He does. He appreciates that, but he admitted it was a bit of a slap in the face for English coaches because what's the point? What can we aim for here? You know, and that's the point here. I think is does Thomas Tuchel, who's obviously got a better CV than Gareth Southgate, when obviously I know being a Middlesbrough fan that his CV wasn't great when he got the job, but that doesn't, you know, I think Thomas Tuchel's CV is based on club management. It's very different being a head coach of a national team, and I just don't see it. Doesn't necessarily translate to me. It doesn't. We saw that with Germany in the summer. Nagelsmann, one of the best up and coming club managers around at the minute. I thought Germany stacked the place out for large portions, and they had a wonderful squad. I think it's a bit of a gamble. I think England have gone safe. I do. I think the FA have gone safe. They've got a high caliber coaching, and yeah, I don't blame them in some ways. To be fair to them, you know, is he the best available at the moment? Yeah, now that Klopp's taken the Red Bull job and Pep's technically still at City and he might have another year, you know, he probably is the best option out there if it's for free. So, yeah, it's only over it's an 18-month contract he's signing, so you know it's not a long-term commitment. But yeah, I just the way I see it, you know, Spain, France, Germany, they're not appointing an Englishman. They're not appointing a foreigner. And yeah, it's colloquial. It's a bit, I might be old fashioned and a bit stuck in my ways, but yeah, and it's nothing to do with him being German. It's just the foreign. I wasn't a fan of Capello being appointed. I wasn't a fan of Sven being appointed. They didn't work. I generally hope this one works out. I'll say only time will tell. We'll soon know the answer in just 18 months' time, won't we?
We will, because he's only got an 18-month contract. Yeah, go on.
Something, Graham, on the point of Tuchel and club management being different than international management, which is obviously true. I feel like Tuchel's one of the best knockout managers in the world, if not the best. He's had 43 knockout games in his career. He's won 34 of them. And so I'm a Chelsea fan, and when we won the Champions League in 2021, I think he demonstrated in game more than anything how he can tweak a team in terms of tactically or personnel wise. If something's going wrong for him, he's not afraid to make a substitution, change the tactics. We conceded 4 goals in that Champions League campaign, you know, beat Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Porto, and obviously Manchester City. And you also said that you don't think Tuchel's on the level of Pep or Klopp. In that same season, we beat Manchester City 3 times. So Tuchel beat Pep 3 times. So I feel like when you're talking about international knockout tournaments, I don't think there's a better manager, and I think he's perfectly suited for it.
Jeptaj, I'm just
Quite
I'm just
possibly,
going to
but
counter that.
I would point out the
Ollie
fact
beat
that
Pep.
he was
I knew
he was pretty.
I was thinking
I
the
would,
same. I knew he was going to say
I,
so.
I would point out the fact that he absolutely bombed last season at Bayern Munich, and to bomb at Bayern Munich with Harry Kane is some achievement.
Yeah, that is a very good point. But yeah, he is primarily a knockout manager, a cup manager. He's very good at that. The only league title he's won has been in France, if I'm not mistaken. With
He did win a Bayern. He did win a Bayern
before.
before.
He won it
He won a Bayern first season before sacrificing it last season.
I stand corrected. But let's have a quick chat about English coaches and their opportunities in top flight football, league, championship football. So there are 3 English managers in the Premier League as we stand today. You got Eddie Howe, who we've already talked about, Sean Dyche, who's having a really difficult time at struggling Everton, and Gary O'Neill, who's doing actually a relatively decent job with that Wolves team. I don't think necessarily Sean Dyche, with the greatest respect to Sean Dyche and Gary O'Neill, I don't think they're necessarily ready for an England job. And then you move into the Championship, and you've got promising young coaches, but not really a wealth of experience. So your club, Graham, you have quite a promising coach in Michael Carrick. Yeah. Then you've got Tom Cleverley, who is at Watford. You've got Wayne Rooney at Plymouth. You've got Scott Parker at Burnley, who's doing quite well. And that's basically it. Paul Heckingbottom's not doing great at Preston North End. There's not a lot out there. Why? Why are we struggling with English coaches? And the English coaches that we do have all seem to be former players.
Yeah, definitely. I say we've got at my own club, got Jonathan Woodgate on the staff as assistant coach, and obviously he had a few chances himself briefly at Bournemouth, etc. And again, as you said, they were former international, and the former international route, though, you do look at like the World Cup winners, and there is a bit of, there's only I think one manager this century who's won the World Cup who wasn't a former international. I think that's Scolari. That aside, all the other winners have been former internationals, so there is something there. I think being an international player is something that how the whole system works, etc. I think it's a shock to the system if you weren't a former international or hadn't been part of the system. So I think that's the way England look at it. England need to start. I'm disappointed with the Carsley. I think they've been grooming Carsley for this job. And the fact they haven't done it for him, and that great game, I thought he went for it. We've seen him do brilliant thing within 21s. That CV he had there would be enough if he was in Spain, etc. That would be enough for him to get the job. I think I'm gutted for Lee Carsley that he hasn't got it. I am. These Nations League leagues are what they are. I think he knows the players. He knows them well. I think he played it safe, especially that first squad. It wasn't really his, it was his selection. We saw Angel Gomez come in, but I think he played it safe. He was hoping for the job, and it didn't quite work out. But I think the English system, they need to put something in place, and they had the chance to do it now. They really had the chance with Lee Carsley. We actually called with him. It looked like a nice setup. It looked really good going forward. I'm not contradicting myself, guys, but a friend of mine, Dean Jones, and a few others in the industry, they'll tell you I came up with this idea a few years ago where it got laughed out of court. Anyway, it was my idea, right, and bear with me. I would appoint an England head coach to get us to every qualifying session, and then when we got to each final, it would be like a freelance contract, a 6-week freelance contract. Whoever the best manager in the world was at the time, give them that job. So whether it be Pep, Klopp, a 6-week contract, 10 million pound win bonus, because it's not about tactics, it's about inspiring. So I always come with a system where you have a Steve Holland or someone who gets us through the qualifiers, because especially nowadays, do you know what I mean? This next World Cup, is it 40, 46, 48 teams in the next World Cup?
48 teams.
Some you have to be really, really bad not to qualify for the next World Cup.
Yeah.
So I always thought head coach, and then once we get to the World Cup, whoever it may be in 18 months time, whether it be Arteta, whether it be Klopp again, if he takes over Red Bull, or whoever it is in the world, because they've got the summer off as well. So they are free. So give them that 6-week contract, 10 million pound win bonus, just to take them for that 6-week period.
But do you not
It's
think
not
that manager...
wildly unfair on the coach that got them to the World Cup.
Yeah.
No, because you have that. He'd still be there. He'd still be part of the system. And he would be the man who's bringing these youngsters through all the time. He would know them, bring them through, and get them going. But then you bring this elite figure in, like we've done now. We brought this elite coach in, so-called elite, but it's like a Tuchel appointment, but on a lesser scale. Over a 6-week period, we don't need to keep him for too long.
We're starting the campaign now. Graham Bailey for FA Chief Exec. The journey starts here. Okay. Look, Jeptaj, let's give you a chance to weigh in on English coaches, right? So we've just gone through a list of some English coaches in the Premier League. There's a list of some promising coaches in the Championship. Do you think the reason that more English coaches aren't given time to kind of cut their teeth as elite coaches is because of the pressures of being a Premier League manager and the demand that they have to win instantly? You look at someone like, I'm just going to throw out a name that doesn't mean anything to anyone. Erik ten Hag is under massive amounts of pressure at Manchester United at the moment, not because he isn't a good coach, but because he's not winning games, and he's probably going to end up losing his job. Now, is that what's happening with English coaches, in your opinion?
It probably is a bit of that, to be fair. I think the two main ones who I would think of when you say that are Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard. I think Lampard obviously was straight away groomed for the Chelsea job, which he got, and I think he made relative success of, especially in that first season. And to be fair, I think throughout his coaching career, he's had some definite highs. And you look at Gerrard, he was groomed for the Liverpool job, but it went so badly wrong for him at Villa. He had them on the brink of relegation. Then Emery comes in and they're top 4 contenders. So maybe there isn't too much pressure on them at the start, thinking what could they do, what can they achieve, especially given how great they were as players. But also some of it has to come down to their performance. So, for example, Gerrard, I can accept that he had a tough time at Villa, but then he's gone straight to Saudi. Now, to me, that is poor. At his age, for me, at his age, with his still lack of coaching experience, if he really wanted to make it to the top, you can't give up after that's his second high-profile job after Rangers. You can't go straight to Saudi, and then you can't expect to come back and get a top Premier League job. And then I think if you look at younger coaches, I think there is a few exciting ones. Michael Carrick is probably the one who I think of. When he was the interim manager of United, he was quite good. I've not seen too much of him now, to be fair, but I think it's unavoidable with the way the press is and how excited we get as fans. A well-known player who's coming through the system, they will always have that pressure on them. And I don't really know how you'd stop that, to be fair.
I think by allowing them to fail, because I mean, you get taught as children, don't you? The only way that you learn is by making mistakes. And if you're not allowed to make mistakes, you are then suddenly under an enormous amount of pressure not to make one. And that, I think, is where English coaches get maybe a little bit of disservice. And for me, it's much easier for a Premier League chairman to go, oh, well, I can just dip into the market of Spain and find that young coach, or I can go to Germany and just get that young coach. They're a lot cheaper. They come with much less baggage, and it's probably easier to replace, because we have kind of a conveyor belt of Premier League managers. We're losing on average 6 Premier League managers a season to the sack. That's an outrageous amount of jobs being lost every year.
Yeah.
How do you thrive in that environment?
It is a strange one. I feel like as well, tactically, the managers that come from England, they just don't seem as adept as the European managers. And, whether that's while they're a player, if they're not as tactically astute when they're getting their badges. it's a strange one because it seems like if you were to compare, a Frank Lampard with a Hertzler or a De Zerbi, they just, it's incomparable really. But also, if you look at someone like De Zerbi, his career path, he's gradually gone up and up and up. Obviously, started in Italy, then he's gone to Brighton, now he's at Marseille. He's building himself as a top coach. It's a bit like what I was saying with Gerrard. And actually, even with Lampard, he went straight from Derby to Chelsea. Was that just too big of a leap? Should he have continued building himself? Maybe the coaches themselves, who have been such great players, don't want to build themselves. Maybe that's why Gerrard's just taken the money and gone to Saudi. There's so many potential issues, and it'll be a difficult one to sort out for the FA. But I'd just like to say as well that whilst I'm in support of Tuchel being the manager, I am an England fan, and I'd prefer it if the English manager was English. 100% would prefer that. I just
Okay.
think when you look at the market now of managers available, none of the English ones stack up. So I think the FA have to look at how can we change that.
I think there's also an element of we are currently sitting in the middle of what most people would agree is another England golden generation. We've
Yeah.
reached two major tournament finals and the semi-finals of a third in the last 8 years. We probably should have won at least one of those tournaments. You've got players like we genuinely have a plethora of world-class players in the England team. You've got your Phil Foden, you've got your Bellingham, Kane, who's admittedly coming to the end of his career now. But then you've also got players like Declan Rice, and you've got John Stones, and there's a number of world-class England players. Is Graham, I'm going to ask you this. Do you think the FA have looked at this and gone, shit, we promised a World Cup by 2028. We absolutely promised everybody we were targeting that World Cup. We're in trouble now because we're not making the progress we thought we would be making, and they've gone, let's turn to a coach who we think has probably got a better chance.
I think it sums up the fact that the FA are not responsible for this player development in any way, shape, or form. It's the clubs who are responsible. It's the Chelseas, the Man Cities, the Man Uniteds, the Liverpools who are ploughing millions upon millions. Chelsea get a lot of stick, but their academy is second to none in Europe, as is Liverpool. These English academies are wonderful. That's the conveyor belt. It's nothing to do with the FA. Yeah, the little player performance plan which came in, which allowed, that was key to it because it's allowed the top Premier League clubs to cherry pick all the best players from the lower leagues, which has helped the game in England because these players now, instead of being forced to stay maybe at a lower league, they're being picked and cherry picked whenever they want by the top clubs, and we're seeing that progression now. And I don't put any of this progression in the English game down to the FA in any way. It's got nothing to do with St George's Park. It's got more to do with Cobham than it has St George's Park. The Etihad campus. It's got more to do with that than it has St George's Park.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair, actually. Okay, well, look, Graham, if you were having to choose a manager on the market who's available now that isn't an Englishman, because I know I think everybody on this podcast is probably in agreement that we would prefer to have an English manager, but ultimately we don't have one. Is Thomas Tuchel the best of what is available right now?
Yeah, you would have to say so. Obviously, now Jurgen Klopp's agreed his deal with Red Bull. I do wonder what he would have said if he was offered it. But yeah, clearly the ones who are available, he probably is. If you have to just go with best available rather than the English route, I think I must admit I'd have rather gone for Graham Potter than Thomas Tuchel. I would. I think he showed some real outstanding work at Brighton, Chelsea. That club at the time was difficult, but I think he showed enough. You know what? As we said, like if we're waiting for an English manager to have this top experience of winning trophies, etc., it's like. Who was the last English manager to win a trophy? Was it Harry Redknapp or even Steve McClaren? or even Steve McLaren, back
Yeah.
to Middlesbrough, which there's not much success in English managers out there. I mean, hey, no, I beat Newcastle fans with this fact, and Sunderland as well. And Middlesbrough is still the most successful team in the Northeast this century, thanks to our Carling Cup win. But yeah, I keep on trailing that one out every year. Probably won't be for too much longer, but it's if what I will say is, yeah, the Premier League clubs are responsible for these players, but then the Premier League clubs now will be saying to FA, well, if you don't take a chance on an English manager, why should we? If at some point they're pointing to Man United, so you didn't go, like, if behind the scenes, if they're pointing to the fact that Arsenal, Man United, they're not going for English managers, well, you haven't gone for one, so why should we?
That's a very good point.
The thing is, though, like realistically, if the alternative managers are better than the English managers, surely you have to go for them. I don't think they could win either way. If they went, like you suggested earlier, if they went for Ashley Cole over Thomas Tuchel, I think they would have got a lot of slack. So I think it's just one of them you can't really win.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I think we've seen plenty of. I think that if anyone's going to take a chance, it should be England. If, how do we know Ashley Cole isn't a special one? When's he ever going to get a chance, apart from being assistant to Birmingham and things like this? We don't know, do we? Like where with teams like Bournemouth who pluck a brilliant Spanish coach from like Ariola and stuff, and now we think he's special, etc. But no one's taken a chance, and fair enough. Chelsea did take a chance on Lampard. I think Lampard did a decent job. I think what did for Lampard and Gerrard, as has been said, their next jobs have been very poorly picked. Like Gerrard did a superb just work out with him. So he's gone to Saudi now. It's not a great look. And they're almost lost to the system now, aren't they? Same as Frank Lampard. It was such a shame because it seemed set up. He did a great job at Derby and then didn't work out at Chelsea. And obviously, Wayne Rooney's gone to Plymouth now. It looks like a long road from there. He's doing a decent job, to be fair to him. I've seen Plymouth this season and they look okay. But for him, he's probably at best he's going to go to Everton next, maybe, and then step up ranks that way. But it looks, if we're just going for the best available option, as the FA have now done, come 18 months' time, who is there going to be an English coach there then? It looks very difficult, as we say. It looks very difficult for anyone to have stepped up. If Michael Carrick gets Middlesbrough promoted to the Premier League and we have a decent season, is that enough of a CV to get the England job in 18 months' time? Probably not.
Probably not. I don't think it should be either.
No,
I don't think it should. I think if gaining promotion to the Premier League was a credential, there's an awful lot of managers that are going to be knocking on the FA door very quickly. I think the bar should be considerably higher than that.
But that's why I think this system of coming through the St. George Park system of the FA have had, so they've known when Gareth Southgate's contract was up, they've been nurturing Lee Carsley and Ashley Cole to a lesser extent for quite a while now. And if they're suggesting their system isn't working, look, that under 21 win that Lee Carsley that we mentioned at the start of the show, that was such a brilliant team performance. The system he played there, that was almost genius for playing Anthony Gordon in that whole role and the players involved in that system. I just think it would have been worth going for it with him. I really do. I think what he showed for that under 21s. So if you're appointing someone under 21 manager in the European champions with England, what more can he do?
I mean, that's the route Gareth Southgate took, and there wasn't much of a CV under Gareth Southgate's belt.
And I tell you what, the under 21s look a lot better under Lee Carsley than they did under Southgate.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Jeptaj, I want to talk to you about the elite coaches in world football, and they seem to be moving into international management. You've got Spalletti at Italy. You've got Pochettino, who's now taking an international manager's job. You've got Nagelsmann with Germany. You've got now Tuchel with England. Why are these elite coaches leaving club football and moving to the international scene?
I feel like probably the first thing that I could think of that makes sense is the amount of games that you get in a season at club level is constantly increasing year on year, and we constantly hear managers complaining. Klopp, Pep, they're all saying there's too many games. So are the players. When you transfer to international management, you've got maybe a fifth, probably realistically a fifth of the workload, similar amounts of money, and you're fighting at the very top of the game. There is no greater trophy than the World Cup, and the Euros is, up there with that or the Champions League. And to manage a country like Spain, England, Germany, this is still as good as it gets for the top managers. So I think they're probably looking at club football and thinking, well, we're not getting bang for our buck. It's coming from international management.
Graham?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's fascinating that Poch obviously didn't think that he was in England reckoning in the summer, because he would have been a leading candidate as well. Yeah, I think at the moment, I think Poch is just in charge of USA for this short period of time. This World Cup coming up, this little window we're in the minute. It's a perfect time for someone to step into it. 18 months to World Cup finals. It's ideal. I don't think Thomas Tuchel's doing this with a view to still being international manager in 10 years' time. I think he's doing this he thinks from this point, if I was Thomas Tuchel, thinking, right, how do I get a Real Madrid or Barcelona job? My CV is what it is. Am I getting it now? Probably not. But if I go and win the World Cup with England, got a decent chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good show. That's a good show. Okay. Look, I think whether you are in favour of a foreign coach or not for the England national team, I don't think there's any denying that Tuchel's probably the best name that there is out there on the market at the moment. But let's have a quick chat about which England players are going to be potentially coming back into the fold, or should be looking at the England side now and going, do you know what, I'm in with a chance. Who is there out there that you think you're in with a shout of getting into the England squad now? But Conor Gallagher looking for maybe a reprise?
Gallagher could definitely, but the first player who I think of who will be buzzing at this news is Chilwell, because Chilwell and Reece James were absolutely critical for Tuchel when he was Chelsea manager. They were, I would argue, the two most important players on the team when they were both fit. So and Chilwell's been completely left out in the cold of the England setup. Even when Luke Shaw's injured, he's not had a look in. So for him, it probably looked like his international career was done. I think with Tuchel coming in now, if Chilwell can get himself playing, which will be difficult because I don't think Enzo Maresca wants anything to do with him either. But if he can somehow get his way back in, Tuchel will definitely be looking at him. I think this could revitalize his career. Definitely, maybe Mason Mount as well. I know he's had a tough time with injury.
Well, he's got to be fit to play for England, surely.
Yeah, you've got to be fit. I mean, that's the problem. Reece James as well. He'd be a shoo-in, but he's never fit either. So, that crop of Chelsea players who won the Champions League, it's not gone well for any of them. But yeah, I think Chilwell is the main one who comes to my mind.
Graham, in the summer when Gareth Southgate announced his travelling squad, there were an awful lot of eyebrows raised over the omissions of Marcus Rashford and Jack Grealish, and eyebrows raised over the inclusion of, as Jeptaj said just then, Luke Shaw, who wasn't fit to go to the tournament, but he went anyway. Do you think Thomas Tuchel is the kind of guy who's going to look at that and go, yeah, if you're not fit, you're not coming in my squad? Or
I said time will tell. We don't know what type of manager he is international wise yet. We can surmise who his favourites might be, but we don't actually know yet. I think we might see a few new names become real mainstays of the team. Someone who I'd look at is for the World Cup qualifiers in March. I think like a Jared Branthwaite will start becoming really, really big name for England now, because centre half is a problem position. And I think the fascinating thing with Tuchel is does he go with a 3 or a 4? I think that's going to be the fascinating way forward. As we said, he loves playing the wing backs in the 3, but is there enough in this country to play a 3 at the back?
So
I don't know.
yeah,
Possibly. If you go Colwell, Branthwaite and Gahey, maybe, yeah. But you're cobbling together 3 centre halves rather than having 3 that trip off the tongue at you. So, but the
John
wing backs
Stones is still
there on the right
available,
for sure.
He's also wearing the armband now and then.
Yeah, he was captain against Greece, weren't he, at Wembley for the first time? But yeah, lads, do you think there's anyone that should be fearful of their place in the squad now? Like when they see the Tuchel's coming in, do you reckon anyone's getting scared, thinking, oh no?
I think some of the attackers will be if he does go three at the back. You
Yeah.
know, the Sakas. I think Saka will be more afraid than Cole Palmer, for instance. I think Cole Palmer's. I don't think he'll be too worried about his situation going forward. But you know, Foden, Saka, the mainstays of previous squads. You know, Tuchel. Could I see him maybe asking one of these big names to really throw down the gauntlet? I wouldn't rule it out. But I think it will depend on what system he's going to be looking at now. What system is best for him? And if he does go three at the back, that means no, we didn't think there was enough room for these attackers in the first place. But an extra place will be missing. So it's going to be fascinating to see what system he goes with.
Yeah.
Jeptaj, I wanted to talk to you about Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, three at the back is probably the ideal position to get the ideal system to get the best out of Trent, because he's not going to be asked to do an awful lot of defensive work, and he can still invert into that midfield role that he likes, and he can also bomb on down the touchline. Is there a potential international renaissance coming for Trent?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's already started. I think in this international break, it was the first time, following on from the last one, that he started 3 England games in a row, which is crazy when you think about it. So obviously Lee Carsley likes him, and I think one of the big things that people were thinking in the last tournaments was, how has Southgate not gone for him, especially when you got Reece James injured and Kyle Walker, who's in the last sort of few months or so has looked more susceptible to errors. So I think Trent should definitely be looking at that right back or right wing back spot and thinking that's mine to nail down. You know, he's by far and away now the clear candidate in my mind. I'd be playing him over Kyle Walker or Reece James, even if they were, well, Reece James, if he's fit, I think would start, but he's not been fit for a good 2 years now. So I think it's Trent's to lose.
We need to keep Trent out of midfield, I think, is the answer, and away from left back as well. Play him where he square pegs in square holes. Play him in the position that he's meant to play in. Graeme, one of the big issues that Southgate probably had during his tenure was playing players out of position. We saw an awful lot of that in the summer with right backs playing at left back. You've got centre attacking midfielders playing out on the wings. Where do you think Tuchel is going to go in terms of making sure the players are playing in the right positions? And do you think he's going to experiment in his early kind of few windows?
It's impossible to tell. I said until we know what system he wants to play. You know, I think that's going to tell us everything. You know, clearly the left-hand side is an issue. You know, if Ben Chilwell, you know, ends up, you know, we know he does like him, but you know, if he's, it depends what level he's playing at, you know, when it comes around. But he's got age in his time, Chilwell, so I imagine he will be fairly happy. But do we see any youngsters coming through? Possibly the boy McFarlane, who's going to go to Man City, he might be ready by then. I think that's an issue he's going to have to address. Do we see the likes of Colwell being played out there? I'm not sure we will see that under Tuchel, which will be pleasant, which will be pleasing. But then it's no matter what he does, he's going to have an issue, isn't he? If he solves that back three with the two wing backs, what does he then do with? Does he play one holder, and then what do you do with Rice and Mainu? If you play Rice and Mainu, it only leaves one number 10. Who do you play up front? This, you know, I say we could talk all day about it. He'll probably be sat there thinking, what do I do best? We know he loves Harry Kane. Harry Kane's name will be the first on the team sheet. I think Harry Kane will obviously be his captain. But then what does he do around him? You know, it's something that obviously Lee Carsley was looking at. It's something we'll debate probably up until the finals in America and probably during it as well. Those first qualifiers in March next year, I think it'll be fascinating. That first squad he announces, we'll have an idea of what system he's going to play. So I'm really looking forward to those qualifiers in March when they begin. Yeah, what system he goes. It'd be fascinating if he goes with a 3. That'll be fascinating. It really will be. I think that's his preferred system. It really is. I'm just not sure that the England squad lends itself to that. If Ben Chilwell's playing regularly and Luke Shaw's back, it probably does. But I do worry about the centre half position. We're not inundated with world class centre halves at the minute, are we?
Yeah, you know another player, left back or left wing back, who could come into the fold is Lewis Hall, because I think it
Yeah.
was Tuchel who
Yeah.
gave Hall his debut for Chelsea. So
Yeah.
clearly he saw something in him, and he's progressing nicely. So I think he could come in as well. But I agree with you, Graham. At centre half, there is an issue there because you've probably got Stones who will definitely be in. I think Branthwaite is a good shout, and probably Colwell actually. A three of those three players will be very strong, but it's would he integrate Colwell and Branthwaite at the same time? Because that could be risky.
You got Mark
Yeah,
Gay.
well, two left sides as well, isn't it? You can probably tell us if most people don't like playing two lefties in the middle, so that might be another reason that he goes to three at the back. Because I love Colwell, I think he's brilliant. I like Branthwaite as well. So if you're going to play them two, you probably have to play a three.
Yeah. Well, while Tuchel's sitting at home now, what do you think he's thinking? What do you think the first thing that he's got to do to tackle? What do you think he's got to do to make England finally win something and do different to what Southgate done?
I think the first thing that he's got to do, and he'll have realised this in the past 24 hours, is get the fans and the media on side because
Yeah.
because he's really going to face an uphill battle there. But I think he will because so I can speak, properly about this as a Chelsea fan. He really won Chelsea fans over. He just understood the culture around Chelsea. I felt like he loved living in London. He loved England. And he even said in his first press conference today that, he really is happy to be living in London again. He loved the culture around English football. So I think that when he comes into the job and those March qualifiers start, and you see him on the touchline, how passionate he is, because that's something that we've sort of missed a bit with Southgate. He was so calm and composed, which worked in his favour, but he also didn't show too much emotion. Thomas Tuchel wears his heart on his sleeve, and you know that when he's in a job, he's fully into it. I remember when he was at Chelsea and things weren't going right. One press conference, he said that he'd been up all night the night before, eating chocolate, walking around his living room, trying to work out how to fix things. Just small stuff like that makes you think this guy really cares. So I think that he will win the fans and the media on side, and I think that'll be his toughest battle as well.
Yeah. I think it will be tough for him. I know, like, we all know some of the chants that England fans sing. So having a German manager, I think it will be tough for him. But I think he's got the personality for it. I remember his headline he had at Chelsea where he said, "It doesn't matter if we can't get a play, and I'll drive the team here." I can't remember the exact,
exactly.
but you'll probably remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a passionate man and he's fully committed into his jobs that he's in. So I think he'll win people over. And I think he's perfectly suited for knockout football.
Yeah.
The interesting thing would be, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself. If we were to win the World Cup, how would it be viewed? Because some people I've seen on social media were saying if we win it now, there'll be a little asterisk on it and all this sort of stuff. So, I feel like it'll never end.
Well, there'll be an asterisk. He'll be the first foreign manager ever to win a World Cup. I think it's set up for him to, these qualifiers. We haven't seen the draws yet, but this Nations League probably looks harder than what the qualifiers will be, given how many European teams are going to qualify. It's going to be, it'll be for him not to win over the public in the qualifiers will be some achievement. I don't think that'll be an issue. I think the fans know now they're already looking towards North America in 2026, and he's going to be judged on that clearly. It's going to be a long tournament, and we'll see. It's going to be fascinating. Where is a world class manager the key to England winning it? We'll see.
Okay. Well, last question then for you, Graham, and for you as well, Jeptaj. Thomas Tuchel has been given an 18 months contract starting in January. Why has he only been given an 18-month contract?
Because that's all he wanted. Because that's all he wanted.
I think it's because if he doesn't win the World Cup, that's it. I feel like because it's such a controversial appointment, if he doesn't win the World Cup, that is literally it. Southgate, because he was building something and everyone was behind it, he was given that leeway and he got so close. With Tuchel, maybe you're right, Graham. Maybe that's all he wants. But also, maybe if he doesn't win it, that is just it.
Okay.
I don't see a massive issue. Not 2-year contracts for these international managers. Intrinsically, that's what a lot of them sign anyway. You know, obviously the hiring and firing is generally after a World Cup final, so it tends to be a 4-year deal, which takes them through the regional competition, whether it be the Euros or the South American Championships. You know, so I think because he's coming in, which part way through this now, that it's naturally it's an 18-month 2-year deal. And you know, and with him, you know, again, he's not done with club management. I said I don't blame him. This is a step to him to securing one of the big jobs in Europe. It does not. He hasn't worked in Spain yet, and for him to get I do come back to it. For him to be considered for the Real and Barca jobs, he did go for the Barcelona. The job didn't quite get there. So if he can win the World Cup with England, that's the icing on the cake for his CV. But yeah, fair enough to him. Fair play to him. If he does do it, then everyone's happy, aren't they? And they'll bid him farewell. And off he goes. But I don't see it as being a big issue for on the 18-month deal. In fact, I think it's quite sensible.
Fair enough. Okay. Okay. Are we backing the manager, Jeptaj?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like now that he's been appointed, you've got to, because the one thing that, you know, could stop this team with how talented the team is and the manager is if there's division in the fans and in the media. So I feel like everyone has to get behind him now.
Alfie, you are the most Southgate in man that I've ever met in my entire life. Are you backing Tommy?
Yeah, look, nah, do you know what? I'm happy. I'm happy with Thomas Tuchel, but it'll never be Southgate, really. I don't think anyone ever will be.
We need to get Thomas Tuchel a waistcoat.
Yeah, we'll put up with him for now. When he wins us that World Cup, hopefully he gets Southgate as assistant, so I can see them both in the tunnel. But who knows? Who knows?
Graham, despite your stance that English managers should be English, are you going to back Tommy?
Gosh, no, it's you know, we want England to do well. We want them to win. Does this put England in the best position? Possibly. If that might be the key, you know, that master tactician that we haven't, that so clearly Southgate wasn't. If that's the key to getting us over the line, then fair play to Defo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it there now, boys. Thank you very much for joining me, Graham. Thank you for coming on, Jeptaj. Appreciate your time. Alfie, it's a pleasure as always. I'm going to leave you with one thing. There is already a former Premier League footballer who is English that is currently a national football team manager. His name is Lee Boyer, and he is the Montserrat manager. He is my next England manager. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate your time. Thank you for coming, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week. Cheers, guys.